Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Anurag, and I would like to welcome you all on this very insightful session on concepts of data sciences, artificial intelligence, and robotics workshop organized by United Nations volunteers and Youthopedia. And I hope you all are doing well and safe at home. So we have with us today Mr. Ankit Jaiswal from United Nations Volunteers and Mr. Arun from United Nations Volunteers. And would you like to say something, Mr. Ankit?
Thank you, Anurag. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ankit Jaiswal, and with me, Mr. Arun Sehdev, Country Coordinator, United Nations Volunteer India, has also joined this session. I'm working as Management Associate under the project Strengthening NYKS and NSS. It's a joint project with Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, UNDP India, and United Nations Volunteers India. Today's session is on data sciences, artificial intelligence, and robotics. And this session is jointly co-hosted by Youthopedia and UNV India. And I would request Anurag to take a lead in this session.
Thank you, Ankit. Thank you. And before we start, I would quickly like to introduce Youthopedia. It's a platform designed to give a direction to the students on their suitable career options with the prime focus on youth upliftment. Youthopedia's mission is to become a main source of guidance for the youth today as they face a number of career options, changing job situations, and along with it, a number of psychological issues that they are experiencing on an everyday basis. And in these times of certainties, we believe that can be leveraged by gaining knowledge and guidance at home by the experts. So we have with us today Dr. Raul Villamarin Rodriguez, Dean of the School of Business at Woxsen University. He holds PhD in artificial intelligence and robotic process automation applications in human resource. Former CEO and HR manager at Irian's Research Institute, Dr. Raul has collaborated in the organization of symposiums of several education institutions, including Oxford Brookes University's United Kingdom and European Union government bodies in Brussels, Belgium. He's registered expert in artificial intelligence, intelligent systems, and multi-agent systems at the European Commission and nominee for the Forbes 30 under 30 Europe 2020 list. He is a member of the Oxford Artificial Intelligence Society, embedded in the University of Oxford, and the Institute of Robotics, Process Automation, and Artificial Intelligence. Over to you, Dr. Raul.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you are very well today. In fact, the topic is going to be extremely interesting and up to the point for today's market demands. So first of all, let me just share the screen with you. All right. So my screen should be visible to you all right now. Basically, I'm going to touch upon three main areas. There is two in the larger spectrum. We're going to touch upon three. One is data science, the other one is artificial intelligence, and the last one will be robotics. Now let me tell you, data science and artificial intelligence are both interrelated, so there's no two isolated areas, both are combined in this field. In fact, data science is the bigger umbrella and artificial intelligence falls under it. And when it comes to robotics, it's a combination of course, engineering along with the previous fields. So we'll touch upon each of these parameters, what are they about, and how to move forward in the future, and what are the prospects in terms of job prospects, and of course, what are the applications that this might have in your daily routine. So as you can see in your screen right now, there's an index. In this index, this is exactly the points I'm going to cover. First of all, we'll move from the baseline, which is analytics, what analytics are, how do they work, how do they affect the daily routine and the world in general. Then what is artificial intelligence, or better said, machine learning. Then what are the applications, the tools, and of course, the future careers, as well as the future of quantum, which is the future of quantum artificial intelligence as well. This is coming towards computer science side. And then lastly, we'll go into the robotics part. Again, applications, tools, and careers for the same. So let's get started. And let's get started by doing some ice-breaking work here. Most of you might think that data science, AI, or machine learning, or even robotics for that matter, comes from engineering, mathematics, computer science, and so on. Well, you're wrong on that. These fields mainly come from the original aspect of cognitive psychology, creativity, and logical reasoning. So for those who think that this field is only meant for techies and for people who have those necessary scientific or technical skills, you're wrong. Anybody can pursue them. The only thing you need is to have a good understanding of cognitive psychology, because at the end of the day, if you have something called artificial intelligence, it's because we know what human intelligence is and we are able to understand it adequately. Similarly, creativity is equally important, because without creativity, there wouldn't be any questioning and there wouldn't be the creation of any new parameters. And of course, logical reasoning. Without applying these fields, be it machine learning or the other ones, into the real world in a logical way, with a reasoning behind the scenes, with a purpose for it, there wouldn't be any sort of application to it. And any companies like Google, IBM, Intel, Apple, Tesla would not have any real life application, because they wouldn't be logically applying these tools. So this is very important to understand, that data science and AI do not come from an engineering background or from a scientific based background. They come from a liberal arts background, which is psychology, of course, also with sociology and anthropology along the way. And then it moves on to the scientific side, which is maths and computer science, as you can see on the screen. So once this is clear, because this is very important to understand, in fact, most people, even engineers or other professionals or even students, do not know that this is a fact, do not understand that this particular field of expertise, machine learning, comes from a very critical area to us all, which is psychology, which is something affecting every one of us and in a very in-depth way. So once you're able to comprehend these aspects, you can clearly and swiftly jump into the computer science field of this. Now, what are the different definitions of each of these parameters? You probably, especially during this pandemic, might have come across n number of webinars and n number of online lectures. Well, of course, seminars of various sorts on data science, analytics, etc. Now, what are each of these terms? When we look at data science, for example, you can see it is the use of data. Okay, so let me tell you one thing. Any of these fields without data, without accurate, clean data, which can be really applicable in the world, are good for nothing. You need to have data, loads of data, large amount of data collected over a period of time, and the data needs to be accurate, needs to be classified as well into certain parameters. Once this data is classified, we can find something called patterns. Now, these patterns is common points, common connecting dots among each of them, which is what lands into what we know as analytics. Now, analytics is the identification of patterns and statistical features through this data. Once analytics is clear, which is the baseline, we jump directly into what you know as artificial intelligence or machine learning. Now, why you should not call it artificial intelligence? Why artificial intelligence is the ground term for it? Because artificial intelligence is a buzzword. Artificial intelligence does not exist today, because what it is known as AI is artificial general intelligence, which is a point in time where machines are more intelligent than human beings and can develop a higher degree of cognitive abilities. We have not reached that point yet, hence AI is not real. Considering this, anybody, be it a company or an individual using this term, they're actually wrongly using it. So you need to understand that the AI today is actually called machine learning. Now, this is the real AI. What does machine learning do? Machine learning uses what we use in analytics, finding patterns, and we use it to make predictions. Of course, predictions are future, so to make these predictions, we are doing it based on past data, hence they can be called also assumptions. These assumptions can be done in three different ways. One is supervised assumptions, or supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning, as you can see on your screen. Now, what each of them are, supervised learning is using or making assumptions and predictions based on data which is already classified. For example, classification on gender, name, age, etc. If it's unsupervised, this data is not labeled, does not have any sort of columns or classification to it. It's all random and mixed up. Hence, we are letting the system, the algorithm, find patterns on its own and developing a solution on its own vertical. So it's very intuitive in that way. And reinforcement learning is the use of, again, the algorithm in a way of trial and error. Take, for example, a human baby or any pet. When they learn to perform what is correct and what is wrong, what is good and what is evil, they learn through reinforcement learning, which is a way of reward and punishment. So this reward and punishment system is how machine learning learns. Of course, punishment is not in the same way. In this case, punishment will be to highlight that there is a wrong parameter. And once this is being highlighted, then the system understands that, okay, this is not the way to go, let's try another direction. So this is the way of reinforcement learning and how the process will follow in the consequent assumptions or predictions. Now, this being understood, you can see in your screen there is a code. Now, what is this code for? I don't need you to understand any programming language, but this code is especially for face recognition. Now, how does this code work? This is a sample code, of course. I understand that most of you might not have any technical background, so I'm not placing it here. I'm not placing it here for you to be aware of it or for you to understand it completely. It is simply for you to understand how exactly these particular codes will work in the long run. Now, facial recognition, this is on Python programming language, which is a very well-known internationally programming language, very well used, especially used by platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and so on. So how do we structure the face emotion recognition here? First of all, we use something called dependencies on Python, which you can see, which are highlighted with an arrow. Those are what you could call in a mobile phone like apps, like you have WhatsApp or Gmail. Similarly, where you're using apps within Python. Now, once you jump down the code, you can see there's a line in red. That is the data set. Data set is a database, basically a collection of faces, facial emotions, different people, different races and gender, all collected together, where they're found different parameters. Now, what are these parameters? These parameters are emotions. These emotions, as you can see on your screen, are anger, disgust, happiness, sadness, surprise, etc. Normally, they go by the 7 universal emotions. You can, of course, increase then the lineup identification, but to identify these emotions, you need to have, of course, the number of faces in the data set or the database present. So you cannot identify faces unless you have entered faces in the system. The system then will find patterns and recognize different parameters and emotions. For example, look at this short video. As you can see on your screen, there is a face which is being highlighted by a rectangle and yellow lines over the points where each emotion starts. In this case, it's jumping from happiness to neutrality and, of course, process accordingly. And just take a look at the screen. You can observe how exactly this algorithm performs and how it works. All right? You can identify very clearly, and this particular code is identifying the percentage rate of each emotion and that particular scenario. This is how the code will work in this case. Now, another application would be, for example, cancer prediction. As you can see on your screen, there is a deep learning cancer prediction process. Here it will be image processing mainly. How do we predict cancer, different types of cancer in base of different people? How do we do this? We do this by utilizing X-rays. Now, X-rays are taken in hospitals or medical centers. This helps us in a way of pattern identification. So we take these X-rays, we're identifying the patterns, meaning, for example, if it's breast cancer, these are the particular cells that are creating that particular type of cancer, and we find correlation. And then when we enter new X-rays, the system will identify whether that X-ray is suffering from the same cancer or another, or no cancer whatsoever. So as I say, again, a system of pattern identification. In this case, with cancer, it can, of course, be using any other disease or a medical condition of any sort. This is a sample. Now, when it comes to tools, okay. When it comes to tools, we have different tools, as you can see on your screen. Now, I don't need you to really learn much upon these tools in detail, as it's just a highlight of it. But when we talk about Hadoop, Tableau, TensorFlow, as you can see on your screen, each of them has different facilities. Now, my advice for you to start programming or to start on this field of artificial intelligence will be mainly to jump into areas like Tableau or TensorFlow, as you can see here, or even Python. Though Python is not so complicated, but you will need some programming background in advance. But even if you want to start from scratch, you can do it as a beginner as well. Each of them has a different application and different benefits. I will advise you to use all of them, but to start with, TensorFlow and Python and Tableau will be ideal. This is just some samples, of course. You can use whichever programming language you might be comfortable with. Okay, now let's talk about future careers. When we talk about future careers, we are talking about various areas here. Now, to get a career in the field of data science or AI or robotics, as you can imagine, you need a huge conglomerate of skills. For one, of course, knowledge of machine learning, then knowledge of programming languages, as we have seen right now, and knowledge of data sets and databases, how do they work and how do they perform, and then obviously the analytical functions as well. So all these parameters, they need to be put together along with the psychological knowledge in order to work successfully. You cannot go standalone with a programming language or a mathematical function and try to work on data science, because you will not have that creativity part or that logical reasoning part, or like that psychological understanding of people and how the market works. So to understand this, you need to combine it with the computer science knowledge and then try to find real-time and real-life solutions, which will lead you towards well, a purpose as well as a business application for the same. For example, these are real roles. Whatever you can see in your screen are real roles. They're all very much present in the market, and I actually taken them from real HR professionals. So this is the sample one role. For example, I'm giving you two examples. So the first sample will be a senior engineer for deep reinforcement learning, which is basically machine learning. Now here, you don't need to be an engineer by career or by degree, but you need to have the knowledge. Many companies, especially in the US, have stopped looking so much at degrees, but looking more at skills in particular and experience in particular. So when you look at this, you can see the job responsibilities will be, of course, the scientific part of it, the programming side of it, as you can observe in the first points of the job responsibilities. But then as you come down, you also need managerial skills. What does this tell us? This tells us that nowadays you need a combination of managerial as well as technical skills. An engineering degree or an MTech degree or an MBA alone won't fit the purpose. You need a combination. You need a combination in such a way that you have an MBA or a master's in management along with a technical degree too. So this combo will give you an edge in the market, especially in the post-COVID-19 world. You can see the skills required are not so huge, are not so extensive, but they are quite necessary for performing certain roles. And let me tell you, these salaries are very well paid. We are talking on a salary range of 25 to 50 lakhs per annum, depending on the country and depending on the company. So these jobs are really well paid, but you need to have the skills. That's all is required. If you look at the sample role number 2, again, this is a lower job kind, lower position, lower category. We are talking about senior manager, machine vision, which is machine learning, computer vision. In this case, we will be working mainly on sensing and 3D computer vision, which is, of course, for self-driven vehicles or autonomous vehicles, as well as CCTV cameras. So this particular job profile requires similar skills, not very different from the previous one, but a bit more of experience on the field. And again, this job will pay from the salary range from 50 to 70 lakhs, depending on the country. Now, these job profiles are mainly demanded in countries like Singapore, Thailand, Japan. So these countries are mainly demanding these job roles. If you wish to go for these job roles and this particular career, let me tell you, you will need experience, of course. You need hours and hours of practicing in front of the computer or the laptop. But if you are motivated enough and you have the passion for it, you will surely be able to crack it and jump for such job roles, which are going to be very, very lucrative and very well paid, as well as very rewarding life-wise. So my advice for you will be, go for it, because right now is the time, especially post-COVID-19, when everything is going towards technology and towards technological development, we'll need this in a very huge manner. Now, as you can see in this slide, this is something called quantum computing, and a combination with AI lands it into something called quantum AI. Now, what is quantum AI? Quantum AI is a combination of quantum computing, which is the use of advanced computer systems without binary code. It's a combination of both ones and zeros. Regular computers work on 1 or 0. Quantum computers work on 1 and zeros. So this combination landing along with AI gives the edge of quantum AI. Now, what is quantum AI? It's a very extremely advanced artificial intelligence system, which of course leads to extremely accurate predictions, very accurate performance of the system. Now, this particular field is of course a top-notch, more complicated than the previous one. Here we are going to have a combination of physics and chemistry as well, along with all the previous ones of computer science, psychology, and so on. So this is a field which is still under research, is not yet developed fully. There are companies like IBM and Google which are developing this, but it will take still some years to come, maybe 5 to 10 years to come to its full spectrum. And well, let's see what the outcome is. Let's see what the results are. Right now, the results are promising, but we cannot assure that the accuracy will be extremely valuable, because at the moment, we still don't have something to prove for it or some basic research to back it up. But the future leads towards this. My advice will be, of course, go with the future, where the future goes. Now, let's talk about robotics a little. Now, when it comes to robotics, here we have a very interesting area. Robotics is something which combines the best of human psychology and creativity along with the best of engineering in order to create human-like humanoids or human-enabled or human-friendly robots, in this case, well, machines, physical machines. The other were computer science, software-based machines. Here we're talking about hardware as well as software. So for robotics, as you can imagine, you need a higher degree of skill, even in this case, engineering. Various types of engineering will do, mechanical, electrical engineering, etc. All of them will play a purpose perfectly. Now, what are the applications of robotics here? The applications of robotics can be various. For one, healthcare. For example, now robots are being used in various countries during the coronavirus times for delivering medicines, even for transportation of sorts within the hospitals itself. So healthcare is one of them. Within healthcare, we also have robotic surgeries. So the robots perform the surgery themselves without the need for any human doctor to be present. Home automation is there. As you know, Amazon Alexa is there. As you know, Google Home is there. So home automation is very much present for robotics. Military, more of the same. We come across with the same parameters. Now, military is a dangerous area, as you can imagine, because we are talking about weapons. So I'm not going to get much into detail into this field, but military is also an important area. Then robotics in industrial field, also very much there. For example, Amazon is using them for industrial purposes. Nanotechnology, the same, but nanotechnology can be also used for medicine. For example, there is a company called Neuralink, created by Elon Musk, the same founder and CEO of Tesla. Now, this particular company works on nanotechnology, again, for a purpose of introducing chips into the human brain. And then education and retail, respectively, they use it in a very similar way. Education can be used for robotics in terms of labs and different classroom applications, and in terms of retail, Amazon is one of them, but Amazon uses mainly industrial technology. Amazon also goes for a field, for retail, also Flipkart works, as well as companies like Reliance Trends or Big Bazaar, which are using robotics to not just transport, but also store the items on the shelves. So this particular field is very important and very critical in this manner. Now, what tools and how can you use these tools to program robotics? Free of cost, of course. Now, these tools that you see on your screen are basically UiPath, Arduino, Raspberry Pi, and C++. Now, out of all of them, C++, which you see at the last point, is a programming language, the one which is blue on the right side. The remaining ones are all robotic softwares. So they are already programmed by default with a programming language of their own, and they are used for different aspects. If you ask me to start with, Raspberry Pi is AI induced. That means it has AI algorithms already coded within. So it's very helpful in that way, and you should use it and go for it because it will help you learn both AI as well as robotics and how both of them collide. Arduino, also very helpful, is used for chips. You get Arduino motherboards, which are chips, and they're already programmed. So you can easily put it in robots like cars or even spider robots or any sort of small robots that you might have used as a kid. Normally they are programmed with Arduino, so you can use it and work at home. It's very cheap, very user-friendly in that way, very pocket-friendly. For barely 200 or 300 rupees, you can start designing your own robot at home, so it's not expensive. I will really encourage you to do it. If it's not for your own interest, just for fun as well. And we do have the UiPath, which is the one on the left. UiPath is a software, again. It's very good for learning robotics, but again, depends on how proficient you are at programming language. If directly you start with UiPath, you will feel scared and you probably will quit. So rather use any of the other softwares because you'll be more friendly and more intuitive at first rather than the other ones in this case. Now, when we talk about job roles in robotics are even better paid than what you have in AI or machine learning. Why? Because here you have, of course, a higher degree of risk as well as a higher degree of accuracy and business implementation. In this case, the salary ranges anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 and $250,000 per annum, which is a huge salary, let me tell you. For example, the one you see on your screen is for Tesla Motors, the autonomous self-driving electrical vehicles by Elon Musk. Now, this company is paying an average salary of $161,000 per annum. The maximum level normally for a starting position as a computer vision engineer goes somewhere into $150,000 to $189,000 per annum. So these salaries are very huge and very well paid and very rewarding in the long run. And of course, your career will only keep on growing and increasing because this field is not likely to go off anytime soon and is only likely to develop more and more as the time passes and as, of course, the years go by. And even if pandemics like this one, like we are living today, take place, these fields obviously will be of more relevance importance in the long run too. Okay, so at the moment, I would like to, because I want to make this interactive, so I would like to have questions from your end so I can answer them rather than just me speaking.
Thank you, Dr. Rod. Yeah. So the first question we are getting from Ashutosh Bharadwaj. He's asking, why do we need to use artificial intelligence?
Why do we need to use it? That was the question. Why do we need to use artificial intelligence?
Yes. Yeah.
But why in what context?
So that is probably wanted to know, like, what is the use of artificial intelligence and in which areas we can use the artificial intelligence?
Okay. So if you come to my initial slides, you can see the various fields were applied to AI. Now, AI can be used in everything nowadays. It's used in marketing, finance, healthcare, automation. Everywhere AI is being utilized and applied. Similar to the slide which I saw on robotics. This slide. AI is utilized in most of the things you use today. For example, you use smartphones, they are AI induced. You use any Google Home, Alexa, Siri, AI. If you use even vehicles like electrical or self-driving vehicles, they're also AI induced. Your marketing campaigns, even Facebook, where this particular webinar is being now live, Facebook works on AI for facial recognition and tagging people in photos. So AI is utilized everywhere. Now, what matters here is how well you utilize it and in what particular way you want to use it. And of course, how beneficial it is to society. Otherwise, if it's just for fun, you can use it in every field, but it needs to have some real life application too. Yeah, Nurag, any other questions?
Yeah. So second question is, what skills are required to become a data scientist?
Okay, so the skills will be mainly programming language for one. Of course, programming language is there, then psychology knowledge, not psychology as a degree, but interest in the psychological field as well as the cognitive part of it, how humans work, how humans behave, why do they behave in this way or that way, what particular buying trends they have, why people are buying iPhone more than Samsung, for example. So all these areas are critical. Knowledge of human beings, programming language, mathematics and algebra, you need to understand it too. And then motivation. With our focus and motivation here, you're going nowhere. And the main problem which education system has in various countries is that they ask you to be everywhere. They ask you to know the field of engineering along with the field of management and be extraordinary at both and having soft skills also. Now, in this field, you need to be very focused because if you are everywhere, you are nowhere. So you need to have focus on a particular field that you want to work upon. For example, if you want to work in, let's say, AI in the field of marketing or finance for predicting stock market, then your whole focus and your whole laser focus should come on finance field, on stock markets, and how the finances work, how the derivatives perform, how the companies are doing, and then see how artificial intelligence can help this field. Then you will be successful, then you will get good job roles in companies where your job is going to be very much specialized into that.
Right. Next question is, what do you think about future of robotics for youngsters?
Okay, the future for youngsters in terms of robotics is going to be, first of all, exciting, simply because robotics, I can tell you from personal experience, robotics is a very exciting field, very entertaining also, something that you can have a lot of fun with doing, because you can develop your own applications in any kind of context. So the future is going to be very, very fruitful, I can see, if we talk about revenue and salaries, which is, of course, a very critical area, is going to just keep on growing. In terms of Indian context, my advice will be do not target India as a market for robotics in the long run, because there are countries like Japan or South Korea, which are the main essence and the leading countries in the area of robotics. So first of all, my advice will be go there for maybe 3 months, 6 months, do an internship in a robotics company in those countries, learn their best practices, and then come back to your own country and develop your nation, either at a government job or a private job. But the future is bright in this field. In fact, if you ask me, seeing all the degrees available in universities in India or abroad, the fields which will have really scope in the long run will be data science, will be robotics, will be a combination of psychology, philosophy, and this field later on. The old-fashioned fields of only engineering, only architecture, only law, only MBA will not cut it anymore. These particular degrees are not going to be up to the mark. So you need a combination of both, a combination of skills. You need to be multivariate, and you need to have all this combo which the market will demand, which the market is already demanding now during COVID-19. As you know, many people are getting laid off, and new skills are coming across. So if you want to join the fifth industrial revolution, you need to decide whether you want to adapt or you want to perish and, of course, well, lose opportunities which are really bright in the long run.
Thank you, Dr. Rock. We have got another question from Chipazor.
Yeah.
He's asking, what one advice would you give someone who wants to major in data science and or data analysis?
Okay. Okay, first of all, for data analysis, there is nothing called data analysis. It's data science as it is as a whole subject. So to take a major, to take a degree in this field, first of all, you need to focus upon some field which is undergrad based on mathematics or algebra or something on science-related fields. If not, even a BBA with data science specialization will do. If not that, even a BTech of some variants such as mechanical engineering or even computer science will also cut it. Other than this, I see it complex. If the person has motivation and wants to do a combo, the person could do, ideally, the Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and then combine it with a Master's in Data Science, which is possible abroad. In India, at the moment, not as per UGC regulations, but it will be later. Or you can do the opposite. You can do an undergrad in science or maths or bachelor degree field, and then jumping into a combination of liberal arts for your master's degree. Now, I know in India, either if you do BA, you have to do MA, or MBA as per the regulations, but abroad is very much possible. So you should look at their outside as well in that way, and bring the best practices. And the job roles, I mean, I already discussed most of them, and they're all very much in demand and all very well paid. If you look at the starting role in the field of machine learning, the salary you're going to get, a starting salary, not for programming, not for back-end job, but for managing a team of AI scientists, will be starting on 60, 70,000 per month rupees. And then, of course, it will keep increasing as incentives come.
Right. Mr. Shiva Prakash is asking, the buildings in the city are becoming a nuisance when it comes to the violation of setback norms or encroaching of settlements in forbidden areas. So, can we address this kind of a issue with the help of artificial intelligence?
Yeah. Could you repeat again, please?
Yeah, I'll do that. So he's asking that the buildings in India, in a city, are becoming a nuisance when it comes to the violation of setback norms or encroaching of settlements in forbidden areas.
Yeah.
So can such issues can be addressed by the help of artificial intelligence?
Yes and no. The problem with artificial intelligence is that there are various privacy and ethical issues present, especially in the field of medicine as well as law enforcement. So it depends how you want to apply it as well as what are the government regulations. For example, if you look at the European Union, there is something called GDPR, which is a privacy law. Now, due to the privacy law, the field of artificial intelligence is being restricted from utilizing conflictive areas such as law enforcement or military in various ways. In countries like India, Singapore, there is a bit more of an open hand in this field, so you could apply it in that regard. Machine learning is being used nowadays in law enforcement for various purposes, but this is still under development because it can create really huge ethical concerns and societal conflicts in the long run. So if anybody is interested, my advice will be go for it, do some research prior, and then try to design something accordingly. Of course, filter it to somebody who is an expert in the field and who can help you guide you in that, because there will be certain government regulations and ethical constraints as well, which will of course come, so you need to solve them accordingly.
Thanks, Dr. Roy. We have got another question, that how artificial intelligence can be used in marketing and communications.
Okay, so artificial intelligence is being used in marketing in the field of social media for tracking users' activities and popping ads or marketing campaigns accordingly. That's one thing. So that's why whenever you search for a flight on whatever it is, any Make My Trip or any website, you search for a trip for a flight. Let's say, for example, you search for a Mumbai to Delhi flight. You might not book it, but maybe 3 days later on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or even on Google, an ad pops that you have searched for this flight. This AI is tracking your movements on the web and, of course, diluting it into a marketing campaign. Apart from this, you can use artificial intelligence to measure the customer responses and the customer satisfaction with your product. For example, iPhone or Coca-Cola, they use this for their advertisements. So they put people in front of a TV, they make them watch the ad, the Coca-Cola ad, and they analyze how they are responding to the ad, happiness, sadness, and so on. So there's a camera, the camera analyzes the emotions, like I showed you earlier, apart from other parameters, and all this gets combined. Of course, there is more than one person watching the ad, and then the ad can be designed accordingly in order to target a particular population segment and make it attractive, and of course make the users buy the product, like Apple or so on. So all this is how these companies are going for it, and they are jumping big time in that field of marketing and communications.
We have got another question. that how do I prepare for the data sciences interview?
Okay, so I think this will be faster to answer. Normally on my LinkedIn, because I don't use Facebook, but on LinkedIn I normally post data science or AI related content. And recently I posted Python or machine learning or data science interview questions. So I have some set of questions prepared, which are normally asked to people in this context. And these particular questions are asked in base of programming, mainly, then of course in base of customer satisfaction or customer response, if you're working for a marketing or a finance company. And it depends on the role, really, because it depends on what particular AI application you're going to work upon. And then it will, of course, come along with the particular job detail questions, such as, do you know about the company and about the job position and the customer segment, etc. So all this is how I will come across.
Thanks, Doctor. We have got another question, that why has data sciences become so important, and why like everyone is talking about it these days?
Well, we are talking about it because mainly it has become the need of the hour and the need of the market, not just for companies but also for governments. And it's really critical to understand that this field will be not the present but the future of the world, because this field can process data in a very large way and very fast, giving results very quickly and very accurately without the need for having humans to make mistakes in it. That's why it's becoming so trending and everyone is speaking about it. That's the main. Of course, you have always the typical guys who speak without knowing and those who speak knowing, but you have to make the differentiation yourself.
All right. And why data cleaning plays a vital role in analysis?
Because without data cleaning, the problem is going to be that if you have a mix of data which is inaccurate and that has different parameters mixed up. For example, look at the facial recognition code which I showed you earlier. I told you that you need to have data sets with various faces, basically photos of people's faces expressing different emotions. Now, if you don't do data cleansing here, what is going to happen is that you might have faces which are not showing any emotion, images which are pixel, images which are not clear at all, and hence this will lead to having inaccurate data because the algorithm will still run them and it will give inaccurate results. So this will lead to very conflicted results and losing accuracy as well as perspective in the whole use of the algorithm. That will be the main problem. That's why data cleansing is critical here. And without data cleansing, without accurate and clean data, you cannot really run adequate machine learning algorithms. It will lead to mistakes only.
Thank you, Dr. Raul. We have another question from Meena, and she is asking, does a data scientist needs to be better at statistics than a software engineer and better at software engineering than a statistician?
Okay, that's an interesting question. A data scientist needs to be multitasking more than what an engineer or a statistician is, yes. It does not need to be better than them. It needs to be 50-50 each of them. Have a good merger in order to be able to develop applications in the long run successfully. So it's not being better or worse than anybody else, but being accurate. That's the main important area here.
Right. Nisha is asking, how do you handle the missing data?
How do you handle missing data? Well, you have to adjust the data accordingly. What you do is you run the data anyway, and then at the end of the day, you see the results you get. Whichever results you may get, you have to set it with limitations. For example, if it's a research paper, you will say that I have run X data, and these are the limitations I came across, and hence my results have been compromising X, Y, Z way. That is how you adjust your results accordingly, which is what many companies do to adjust the results also.
Thank you, Dr. Raul. We have another question, that how does data sciences apply to robotics?
Simple. Without data sciences, robotics wouldn't exist. Simply because robotics depends in a large manner in mathematics, statistics, algebra, and programming. So without this field, there wouldn't be any robotics to happen. Earlier, there used to be what is called as industrial robotics, but now even that field requires you to have data science background and data science accuracy to it and knowledge to it as well. So simple as that, that without one, the other cannot progress and cannot develop its future.
Thanks, Dr. Raul. We have got another question. Which programming language is best for coding in data sciences?
Python, definitely Python. There is no doubt about it. Easy, user-friendly, and pretty intuitive.
Yeah, thank you. And guys, if you have any questions, you can, feel free to ask right here on the comment section. We would be happy to take this ahead. Okay, Shiva is asking, how can we address the encroaching of settlements in a city for proper growth? So maybe he's asking in terms of technology, what technology we can use.
Well, when we're talking about this, we are about developing cities and making cities grow. We talk mainly about robotics. Here, if we talk about reducing traffic, we speak about drones, transportation. If we speak about, let's say, AI, we'll use it for monitoring, like in China, it is happening. They use it for monitoring citizens' behavior, whether people are jumping traffic lights, speeding, and so on. So all these things will also be monitored accordingly, and it will, of course, lead to the society and the growth of the cities in that way. Now, the cities tend to go up, never going to go in a horizontal way, infrastructure ways. So as you go up, you also need better connectivity, better transportation, which tends to have to fly. To fly, you need robotics, and you need to have, of course, all these industrial application of it.
Right, Dr. Rod. So in terms of handling the missing data that Nisha has asked, she is asking, what imputation techniques do you recommend?
Techniques? Okay, that's a very extensive question, I'll say, because it's a very open-ended question in that regard. If you talk about robotics, ideally you should use any sort of AI-induced software like Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi is limited, so you should jump into a more advanced one, which will come in due time, and then develop the computational applications accordingly. There is no one answer fits all here, because I can tell you Raspberry Pi, but maybe somebody might be more comfortable working on another application. So it's a very, very open-ended question in this regard. But my advice, my opinion, personal experience will be to use Raspberry Pi, which I showed you earlier, and which is pretty user-friendly as well as economical in that way.
Thanks, Dr. Rod. We have got another question. What are the biggest areas of opportunity in data sciences, robotics, and artificial intelligence?
It will be in this order: marketing, finance, law enforcement, industrial, all that it covers, and then FMCG, retail sector. This will, and of course, supply chain. All these fields in this order will be the ones that will be most in demand when it comes to the use of AI or machine learning algorithms.
Right. Copello is asking, how do we extract best feature from dataset automatically?
If you're talking about best features, you're talking about pattern identification. To do that, you just have to run the machine learning algorithm. Normally, there are certain models that you might or you might not use. If you want to go for an automatic system, you talk about something called deep learning. So using deep learning, it will help you get the best results if your data is accurate, of course.
Right. We have got another question from Johnny. He's asking, future of data sciences in India or abroad, where it is more promising?
Well, this is a very patriotic question, especially because as it can be obvious, I'm not from India, I'm from Spain. But if we talk about the context of work itself, India can do better, but still when it comes to resources, I will say abroad. And I wouldn't say abroad in Europe, not in America. I will say abroad in Japan, I will say abroad in South Korea, even if we talk about China, whenever the job opportunities appear again, irrespective of the political issues with China, the robotic industry over there is very powerful. So these Asian countries will be the main area. You can go to America, you can go to Canada, you can go to Europe, but the problem is in these countries, they're not so focused upon this area of development at the moment. Of course, I can tell you, the main boss of robotics in the world as of today is Japan, without any sort of competition coming close to it. India can be the future, but not right now. Certainly not right now.
Right. Thanks, Dr. Raul. We have got another question from Mr. Shiva. He's asking, the design of civil engineering structures involve a lot of thumb rules before arriving at the validation of selected dimensions, ensuring proper functionality. How does artificial intelligence help in an attempt to optimize the selected dimensions repeatedly?
Again, here we are talking about deep learning. It's very similar to the questions we got earlier about extracting best features. Extracting best features is about increasing performance of the algorithm. So similarly, to develop this particular application within the civil engineering context, if you utilize deep learning, you can increase the accuracy, develop the performance, and of course, increase the number of results as well as the quality of them. So my advice for these particular fields, which are of technical in nature, will be go for deep learning applications, but just make sure your data is clean and structured accurately. Otherwise, you are going to be in deep trouble in terms of results.
Thanks, Doctor. Venkatesh is asking in future, which one is in demand, data science or SAP?
Data science. SAP is a company, so SAP is an ERP system. So it's not really jumping much into the AI field at the moment, but data sciences will be the main key right now.
Okay. We have got another question from Kopilo. She's asking, sir, can you show any architecture of machine learning in connection with intelligence and knowledge?
Okay. If you're talking about that, it's very simple. Basically, if you don't utilize the use of intelligence and knowledge, how are you going to utilize machine learning applications? How are you going to develop them? It's not possible to come across it in any way because, I mean, the question, I don't really get where is it being framed from what angle, but from what I understand it, I can see that the question is how they are both related. The question is not how are they both related. The question should be how they are not related. They cannot do without each other, which I feel is pretty common sense in this regard.
All right, thank you, Dr. Raul. I think we have covered the entire, most of the parts in data sciences, artificial intelligence, and robotics. What are the last piece of advice that you would like to give to our audience and the students?
Right now, post-COVID-19, you have one choice, which is you adapt or you die with the trend of old-fashioned degrees and old-fashioned skills. So right now it's high time for you, that most of you is not all at home, working from home or studying or just free, to develop your skills in terms of reading, viewing courses, jumping into the area of programming slowly and progressively. That is what is going to give you the job prospect of the future. Now you might think that this is not the need right now. Wait for the next 6 to 8 months. You will see how companies start placing this kind of requirements in the job descriptions. And then you will understand why this valuable time, this 2, 3, 4 months, whatever time this lockdown lasts for, is going to be very important for you to develop your skills in the long run, because we are not going to have such an opportunity to be at home for such a period of time. So this is very critical. So right now, my advice will be to do that, to to jump straight forward into it, take a deep dive, and get all the abilities you have to.
Thank you, Dr. Raul, and thank you for your time, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And you still have any queries, so you can feel free to get in touch with us at info@youthopedia.in. Also, we have uploaded lots of inspiring content on our social media platforms, so you can follow us there at YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, Ankit, would you like to conclude here?
Thank you, Anurag. I would also like to thank Dr. Raul from UNV India side. It was a very engaging and session for our volunteers as well. We would like to have follow-up sessions on the topics as well. If you, Anurag, could like to explain that how are we going, if the students or if the volunteers are interested to continue on these topics and get back to us on the topic, will we be also having some of the sessions on these topics in future?
Absolutely, Ankit, absolutely.
Okay.
We'll plan a series of sessions on data sciences, artificial intelligence, and robotics separately.
Okay. I guess that will be very much helpful for the students who are pursuing their career in this field. Once again, I would like to thank Youthopedia team for organizing this session along with UNV India. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Ankit. Thank you, Dr. Raul. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.